Okay, so in this part of the video, we will create a specification file based on the designs here in Claude Design. So I decided not to change anything. I'll just new chat, and let's stick to the, that was Ipanema, yes, the Ipanema version. So I was still using Claude Opus 4.8 because it was built by Opus and the model is really good, and hopefully I won't run of tokens in this session because I haven't done anything today, so presumably this will be enough, and I decided not to change anything, at least for now. Obviously later on I can make my tweaks, but you know, for now it will do. Even so, obviously I have to clean it up, and the switcher will be removed as it said here, and now it will be only Ipanema. Let's wait it out a bit, and yeah, it is fine. Okay, so presumably we are ready to reskin our application. So first of all, if you haven't done it before, it would make sense to go to the actual repository of your Lovable website. If you haven't done it before, it would be great to instruct Claude to create the Claude MD file and use the official, let's try it, the official Claude MD management plugin. I highly recommend to install it. So you just open up your terminal, you just click it here, and this will be a command in your terminal. So just paste it and you'll see Claude plugin installed. This is the official plugin, and I recommend obviously to do this whenever you download your repository locally. So you just click here and you click on this one, and in your terminal, so just remember the path. So it will be git clone and this URL. Obviously you have to be authenticated, and it was downloaded to this folder YouTube. And I will open up the files here. So let's well, I have to find it now. There's not a lot of space here on this one, and there was the YouTube folder, and that's the one. So I'll just select this folder. It will open up the visual code for me, and yes, I trust the authors because it is mine. So obviously, as stated before, if you and this was completely removed of anything lovable, but you will have a lot of artifacts from Lovable, so it's recommended to create a specification file with Claude and make the transition to Verso, in my case obviously, because if you apply the designs to Lovable, I can't guarantee because it is going to work. It might be Claude might apply the tokens and the tech stack behind the Lovable website. So in my case, yeah, I just stripped it down, and as you can see, Claude MD is basically has a lot of rules and explanations, and it is lean, but it is stripped down of anything lovable. So that was one step from me to get rid of lovable, to move to Verso entirely. If you're interested, I can create a video about that, how to do this with Claude. Because as I said in previous videos, I didn't quite like the server-side rendering, lack of options on the Lovable side, and it is not great for anything LLM related crawlers and the answer engine optimization as well. So I decided to move away from Lovable. Even so, I started there, and that's what I explained in my previous video. So now what I'm going to do, I obviously will open up the terminal and launch my Claude. So now, how would I apply that design that you saw? In my case, you see the auto mode is on. well, I wouldn't specifically do that. So in your case, that will be accepted it's on, so it will interactively ask you about certain things, ask for permissions and so on. So probably in your case, that would be it. In my case, I don't really care that much. So now, this website here, obviously, looks like the one I have shown in my previous video. So that's the agency website I have. So it is junky. It is not looking great, but it was a placeholder for me to have at least something. I'll be completely honest there, but yeah, it's time to redesign that thing and make it at least somewhat attractive. Okay, so now I will click on share here and click to send to Claude code, and I'll just copy the command. I won't really apply it the way it is proposed, and I will explain why in a moment. So there are two ways to do that. I don't really like the terminal way of doing that, so it's probably the wrong way to do this, but I always create like an instruction file in the text format just for me, because it's much easier to edit here, and then I will just instruct Claude to apply the things in this file. So I will pause the video, I will fill it out, and I will explain what's to be done there, what should be in that txt file, or it could be there. Okay, so the instruction is kind of short there. So I want you to use the superpowers to create a specification file for the redesign. This design covers the existing website, and it is a reskinning operation. In this session, we won't be implementing the spec file. Your only task is to work on the spec file in iterations to cover the entire functionalities and prepare this specification file. This specification file should be designed for a team of agents, and important, one of the steps should be to compare the designs with the HTML file included. The agents are supposed to take screenshots and compare to the final designs. Another important task will be to do the smoke test and test out the contact form to make sure everything works after the implementation is done. So what I did there, I just went here and I clicked on the share and used the export functionality to create a standalone HTML file that I downloaded here, and I inserted it here, and that's the file you're seeing here, the name. So that's the file here. So I have the Playwright MCP enabled here, so it will just basically take screenshots and compare the actual work that it has done. This is the final HTML file. Compare it side by side, really, and try to, to make it as close as possible. So again, one more an important aspect here. Why do I create the specification file first? That's the recommendation that's it's being given by every advanced users of Claude, really. Is that first of all, on my plan of $20, quite often I'm reaching the session limits, and if I decide to create a specification file and then implement it, and it might be the case that I will just face this limit and I will be just interrupted in the middle. So first we create the specification file, we clean up the context, and then we start from scratch. So this operation here is basically for Claude to plan the entire reskinning operation, let's put it this way. Create a standalone specification file, and that's it. So it will probably create a folder called docs, and there will be an MD file that will describe what needs to be done. And presumably with this superpowers plugin, it's another one that I encourage you to install. So go to plugins here on the official website and find the one called superpowers. So you can install it as well, and it contains a lot of skills, really, that allows Claude to ask questions, create specification files, do the debugging, as you can see the description, and it is great, I have to say. So let's get back to Visual Studio here, and the only thing left, really, so it is a clean session. I don't really have anything in here, so I will switch the model most probably to something cheaper, maybe, well, I usually use Sonnet. I have to say Sonnet is not bad, especially for this really simple website, and it will be cheaper. And that's what I will do here. So read the ins. So I'm using the @ and to specify the file, and then tab. So read the ins txt and work on the spec file as instructed. So now it will read the instructions. That's what it did. Oh, there is an issue there. Give me a second. Okay, here we go again. So clear the context and then the arrow up to return to the task. I'm actually not sure. Maybe it already took the previous command. And yes, so it is reading the instructions file. And it will start scanning the entire database here. Sorry, not database, the code base here, and propose a solution, ask me questions. Maybe I will switch to this permission mode. And let's see how it is going to work out for us. So it will fetch the design file from Claude design, from the Claude solution. And it asks me if I accept this. Obviously I do. Here, let's see. It's not found for some reason. It's weird. Okay. Let's try again. But this time just copy the URL. For some reason it can't really find it, which is weird. Yes. Okay. So it was able to retrieve this file, presumably. And it retrieves the archive that you can actually export as well yourself if you click on here, and you'll be able to just download the zip archive. So now it is going to extract this archive for me and analyze the contents, and we'll see the magic, hopefully. Or we won't. If not, then I'll just have to manually download the file. No, actually did. You see, it found it. Okay. Thinking. Well, it definitely takes its time. Obviously, make sure to disable your MCPs and so on, otherwise you will be loading a lot of useless stuff. And I disabled my MCPs, well, other than Playwright. Otherwise the context window will be overflowing. It's already at 30%, as you can see. Now we'll see what it does. So obviously after the specification file is done, I'll remove this instructions.txt. The HTML version will stay here. Just to compare when we implement this. Hopefully my session limits will allow for that. And on Sonnet, I guess I won't be hitting that limit today. We'll see. I'll get back to you once we have something. In the meantime, if you don't really want to push it back to GitHub for Vercel to pick up the changes and actually deploy the changes, we just open up another terminal with a plus here. And if you look at the files, we have the README file here, which instructs how to spin it up locally in my browser without pushing it to the GitHub. So in my case, that would be npm install to install all the dependencies needed for this website to be launched locally. As you can see, the website is using actually a lot of weird libraries that were imposed by Lovable, really. Some of them are deprecated, so I'll have to work on that in the future as well. But for now, let's just install it and wait for it to boot up. And then with this simple command here, npm run dev, we'll be able to spin up the website, hopefully. Npm run development server. So this will be on this local host. Yeah, I don't like opening it here, so just open my Edge, and yeah, that's the local version of this website. And every change that will be implemented with Claude will be visible here. Sometimes we need to restart the server, but yeah, that is supposed to be working. So every time you want to change something with Claude, you'll be just spinning it up locally. Obviously, I'm explaining this to PMs, designers, and less technically capable folks, I would say. So if you're a front-end engineer or an engineer in general, then okay, it asks me to it asked me to run this for Claude, which is weird, but okay. And as you can see, it tries to call bash, even so I instructed this in the settings of Claude on my laptop not to use bash because it's a Windows computer, and it is supposed to be working with PowerShell, but still from time to time it still goes for bash, which is extremely frustrating because I don't have it here. It kind of couldn't make it work really. So okay, let's do it the other way then. Let's just export this design in the zip format, drop it, and this will be like 15 mega, and I will just place it here. Not ideal, and I will have to remove it. And maybe it would be great also to extract it as a folder. No, that wasn't a good solution. Let's just create another folder. Temp. Don't forget to remove it afterwards. And I'll just import it into this folder here. Temp. Okay, should be there. Okay. In the meantime, I will just remove this zip. I'm not sure why, but it didn't work out with this archive function. It didn't work out. So, okay, I have extracted the files. These are in the what was it? Temp. This works. Folder. Proceed. So now I have the extracted files, so it will be able to read those in the folder, analyze them. So everything that I exported, for some reason that link didn't work. Okay. it has found pretty much everything I needed. So don't forget to remove that temp folder afterwards, along with the instructions ins.txt. But for now, this will do. We just needed those files. And in the playwright folder, we just don't need it here as well. But this will be in git ignore, so this won't be pushed to GitHub afterwards. So it is reading through those files, hopefully. And now we'll start seeing questions from Claude. It reads the files there, the project, so the assets, the direction, the index services, the upload, the screenshots, pretty much everything we need. So let's wait for a while. Maybe I'll switch back to the auto mode, just for it not to ask me any silly questions. And let's wait it out. So I'll post the video here and I'll get back to you once we have something. Okay, so it read those files, and as you can see, the user explicitly asked to use the superpowers for this. Let me check which skill applies to the spec writing. And it loaded the brainstorming, which is the skill that is actually really great. Invalid two parameters, we'll see. And as you can see, I'm already closing down on the context window. And it created the to-do list for itself, which is great as well. So explore the context, clarifying questions, 2-3 spec structure approaches, design spec sections for approval, and then the final spec file will be created. And this will be the end of this video, I guess. So in the next one, we will implement it and run a couple of plugins to make sure that we didn't introduce any weird behaviors. So here is the list of everything that was found. One thing jumped out significantly: affects scope. The new design isn't just a visual reskin, it changes the content for services, 6 services. So it asks me what I would like to do. Adopt a new copy, and yes, that's what I wanted. So as you can see, it compared the existing text on the home page to the new design. And another question was, the new design specifies Google fonts for its editorial look. Your current design system rule says system font stack, no web fonts. How should the spec resolve this? Add the fonts via next font Google. Yes, because I want those fonts on my website. Okay, another question there. Mockup introduces a new showbill bird seal mark. Take this new brand mark, full brand refresh. Yes. Even so, the image was on the original website, but okay, let's wait for another question. So you mentioned the spec is for a team of agents. How should the spec structure the work? As sequential or work streams multiple agents could tackle in parallel? Well, it can be sequential phases or in parallel. If that was recommended, I will go with it. I'll see. Let's wait for another question. Okay. For the visual comparison step, agent screenshot implementation, standalone HTML reference. How rigorous should the comparison be? Structural visual review, yes, which is an important point. So it will just take the HTML file and compare to something that it created itself and compare how close those are, which is also great. Okay, another question. Test out the contact form. Yes, I have a form connected to my NA10, which also has some security enabled there. So one real submission, NA10 log check. Good. Okay, we can go for this as well. Okay. So now it will try to find a folder called docs. It doesn't exist, so probably it will be created. Yes. So there will be a new folder with the spec file. Another question. The design bundle currently leaves untapped this work. Move to a permanent docs location. Yes, it's fine as well. So it will move the files needed to implement this. Probably to docs as well. So in my eyes, those superpowers, that plugging with a selection of skills is really good, because it will ask you questions that you didn't think about, or maybe something that it encountered in the planning phase. Let's put it this way. So, which spec structure approach should I use? Approach 1, reference, decisions, verification process. Yes. Sure. So it will be, most probably this will be an MD file, which we can use later on in our next session to implement it. The implementation phase will be kind of simple. I'll just run it on auto mode when the MD file is present, and then we will also run a couple of plugins to simplify the code, find duplicates, do the code review with another plugin as well. And now there is a proposition there. So let's walk through the spec sections by section. First up, overview, reference materials, and design system mapping. So over you go, reference materials, and then design system mapping, alt to new. Well, you obviously can read through this, but in my eyes, it looks right, really. Again, for a production important website for your clients, or something heavier than just a landing page of my agency website, you obviously would study all of it and make some notes, chat with Claude, ask questions, specify certain things. I won't do it now. Content IA changes, brand asset, refresh selection, looks alright. So the same goes here, really. I'll just let it implement everything, and then I'll just test it out and make corrections afterwards, which is probably a waste of tokens, but in my experience it is much easier, obviously, to just speed it up, change it all, test it out, and then just make edits afterwards. For now, let's just risk in it and see how it looks locally in my browser, and when we are happy with the result, we'll just push it to GitHub. Okay, another one is what must be preserved. Not to change the contact form mechanics. Yes. SEO, architecture, accessibility, legal pages, analytics, data-driven components. Yes. All of that should stay in place. So those questions back and forth, you are welcome. You're expected to read through those descriptions and accept one of the proposed options. In my eyes, is again an overkill in this context. Does the visual comparison process section look right? So it will just reference render, implementation render, viewports. Yes, also for mobiles. Good. Okay. Smoke test and contact form verification. Again, makes sense to read through this. In my case, I will just press enter. Just because the website is really simple. It actually only has 2 pages. So the services and the main page. Before I write the spec, let's relocate the design bundle from the temp file, temp folder. Sure. So now it will move the useful files to another folder, probably docs, or I don't really know where. It was somewhere in the conversation. Okay, it's compacting the conversation. You can reference the current temp folder. I will keep these files there for now. So let's wait a bit. I'll post the video. Okay, we are back. So I just said that you can reference the current temp folder, and I will keep these files there for now. Let's wait. So those files obviously have to be specified in the specification for the agents to understand where to take the information from. Okay. It definitely takes its time today. At the very least, in our next video with the actual implementation, we won't be spending that much time, because the specification file presumably will be enough to create a draft, or even to build it up, reskin it completely locally, and we'll see. Okay, I'll post the video again. Okay. So we are waiting for it to analyze the files again and put them into the specification file. It definitely takes its time today. I have to see what's being loaded. The context seems to be somewhat crowded. Even so, I disabled the MCPs. Maybe there is something else loading there. I have to check. Okay. Well, I will post the video again, just not to keep you waiting. Okay, here we go again. So you can see the lines being written to this docs superpowers specs file, and this is the MD file. So overview and goals, risking, in scope, out of scope, reference materials, design system mapping. So the file is quite long, I have to say, for such a small website. Okay. Let's wait it out. There's this general purpose agent running that works on this specification file. This spec passes self-review. No placeholders, no deferred items. Okay, still some waiting to do. Skip commit for now. I don't need to commit this file really at this point of time. Okay. Spec written self-reviewed, left uncommitted per your call at. So the file is there. It is fine. So writing plans. A new skill again from the superpowers plugin we installed. So based on this, there will be a spec file finalized. Okay, I will post the video again. Okay, it took much longer than I expected, and frankly speaking, while waiting, I figured that if you have a small page like I do, obviously we are experimenting in here, but this is massively over-engineered. We could just instruct Claude to build it from scratch, really, and maybe hook it up to the N8N webhook I'm using for the contact form. Anyway, that's an experiment, and in this case this was massively over-engineered, and we'll see how good that is in the end. But as you can see, plan complete and saved, and two execution options: sub agents and the inline execution. So let's go with the first option. We'll see if it, I hope it won't start implementation now, because that wasn't my intention really. If so, just Ctrl C and I will start another session, and this will be another video. In general, it took much longer, and for such a small website, probably I could just rebuild it entirely. But we'll see. We'll see. It looks like it actually thinks of the implementation already. Stop the implementation. We will do it in another session. Stopping here, the implementation started, nothing changed beyond the planned file already written and self-reviewed. So yeah, it took also a lot of time and found some implementation gaps really, comparing to the specs. So it has done some self-review. So there is this docs superpowers, and there is the folder called plans, and there's a plan. So there is a specification, and based on that specification, it created the implementation plan. It's really detailed, as you can see. It's really long. So again, probably over-engineered here, but again, I'm just testing it out. Probably not a good idea in the end, but we'll see. This will be a separate video. So the implementation, the code review, code simplification, testing, playwright testing as well, smoke tests, and also the Claude MD management, also for using the official skill. And I would say that's it for now. Thank you for your time. Hopefully that was useful. Yeah, just make sure to consider the time we invested, and maybe it makes sense to alter this instructions, or maybe just build it from scratch. But let's assume I had a lot of pages and maybe I just didn't want to change to create a new setup in Verso and so on. Just wanted the existing one to spawn. Anyway, that was it. I definitely have to play some more with it. Maybe in the future for my other website, meaning this one. I will try to implement it with anti-gravity and the Gemini models most probably, or maybe I'll try to use Qwen and OpenCode. We'll see. Again, this page is not exactly complicated, so we'll see. Anyway, thank you for your time. Hopefully that was useful, and in part 3 we will work on the implementation with Claude. Thank you. Bye.